And our big focus tonight on the 43rd anniversary of the emergency, the BJP has compared Indira Gandhi to Hitler as it goes all out in its attack on the Congress ahead of the general elections. Is the emergency always going to haunt the Congress, or is the BJP stuck on this one issue? That's what we'll be talking about. And let's take a look at why we're talking about it. Union Minister Arun Jaitley leading the attack on the Congress today, blogging about the emergency on its 43rd anniversary and in particular targeting Indira Gandhi. He said, both Hitler and Mrs. Gandhi never abrogated the constitution. They used a republican constitution to transform democracy into dictatorship. Hitler arrested most of the opposition members of parliament and converted his minority government in parliament into a two-thirds majority government. The Representation of People's Act was retrospectively amended to insert those provisions so that the invalid election of Mrs. Gandhi could be validated by changes in law. Unlike Hitler, Mrs. Gandhi, though, went ahead to transform India into a dynastic democracy. Mr. Jaitley then went on to say that the lesson from the emergency is that if you curb free speech and only allow propaganda, you become the first victim of propaganda because you start believing that your own propaganda is the truth and the full truth. And joining us on the program this evening to talk about the emergency on its 43rd anniversary is historian Ramchandra Guha. Mr. Guha, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you. You tweeted today a link to an essay that you had written earlier on Indira Gandhi and the emergency. I think that was when the 25th anniversary had been observed. And you said there that my aim is to demonstrate that the Indian Prime Minister was an actively willing dictator, not a reluctant one that was pushed by opponents into extinguishing democracy. Can you tell us more about that? Because what you're suggesting then is that Indira Gandhi had an inherently dictatorial streak.
Well, she had certainly an inherently insecure streak, and circumstances and fears, real and imagined fears, brought on the dictatorial streak. So there's a medium-term background, which is the centralization of power in the Congress party in herself, her breaking the party, her creation of a personality cult, her subordinating state chief ministers to herself, which happened from 1970 onwards. There's a short-term context, which is, of course, the student movements elsewhere, in Bihar and Gujarat, and JP's role in leading them. And finally, there is the tipping point, which is the Allahabad court judgment. Now, Nidhi, I'd like to tell your viewers something that is often forgotten. The Supreme Court, Indira Gandhi's lawyer went on appeal to the Supreme Court, overturned the Allahabad court judgment. Actually, the Allahabad court judgment was on rather flimsy grounds, and the Supreme Court most likely would have overturned it, as it did later, after the emergency. But it said merely that Mrs. Gandhi, while the judgment was being heard, while the appeal was being heard, could not vote in Parliament. And all she should have done was to give up her job as Prime Minister for 2 months to senior leaders. I mean, there was C. Subramaniam, a stalwart, later awarded the Bharat Ratna, in her government. But she would not share power with anyone. She would not give up the Prime Minister seat even for 20 days. So there was an inherently insecure, paranoid streak in her, which was magnified by the circumstances around her, by what her advisors were doing in a year, and that brought about the emergency.
How do you think, though, the Congress's legacy is sort of affected by this? The Congress, or some of them today who are speaking out, because the party doesn't seem to have responded very strongly to Arun Jaitley's blog yet, but they seem to suggest that, look, we came back to power, the people of India, in a sense, forgave her, the Congress came back to power more than once, she herself came back to power, this is an old chapter in history, and we have moved on. Is that a good enough argument?
No, that's not a good enough argument, because it was an aberration. It was, in our 71-year history, 2 years in which we did not have democracy, by which I mean not just Parliament, because all the opposition MPs were locked up, but also a free press, also free, discussion. So we had censorship. So it was not an aberration. It was a grievous blot on our democratic history, and the leader and the party responsible for that should be held account. But because the Congress is a family party and a party based on worship of Indira Gandhi, both on behalf of the current Congress president and the preceding Congress president, who absolutely blindly venerate Indira Gandhi for family reasons, and one can understand that. I venerate my father, you can venerate your mother, Didi. But if they are running the country and they make colossal mistakes, then and you are yourself in politics, then I think it's a serious error of judgment, and it's also moral cowardice not to say sorry for what happened. Not to say, galti ho gayi. Of course the country moved on, the country forgave her, but a mistake was made. Emergency was wrong. It was happened because Indira Gandhi would not temporarily step aside as Prime Minister for 1 month. She was not even prepared to do that.
It is interesting, though, that the BJP today really seems to have stepped up its attack on the Congress on the emergency issue. And is that, Ram Guha, because we are entering into an election year now? It's not like it's a special anniversary today, it's the 43rd anniversary. And every year the BJP does mark the 25th of June and does, attack the Congress. But this year, it's been particularly sharp, and that comparison, that Arun Jaitley has made between Hitler and Indira Gandhi has particularly stood out. Do you agree with him?
No, that's a ridiculous and absurd comparison. Hitler was in power for 12 years. He orchestrated the murder of 6 million Jews. He closed every university down. So that's wild hyperbole. In the course of Indira Gandhi's many decades in politics, those were 2 awful years. Okay. Now, secondly, in the BJP ranks are Maneka Gandhi and Varun Gandhi, the wife and the son of the person responsible for the emergency's worst excesses, and who was actually a dictator through and through. There was nothing remotely unauthoritarian in how Sanjay Gandhi conducted his practice, his politics. The BJP has had in the past Jagmohan, who was Sanjay Gandhi's right-hand man. So it's rather rich of the BJP to, take on Indira Gandhi. The BJP is also led by a Prime Minister who certainly has authoritarian instincts. I believe his authoritarian instincts will be tamed and checked by our democratic institutions. But like Indira Gandhi, he has centralized power in himself. He doesn't care for the party, for parliament, for state chief ministers, for the press. He's never given an interview. So it is a bit rich for the BJP to be mounting this attack. But having said all that, you cannot euphemize or apologize for the emergency. You cannot. Indira Gandhi did something awfully wrong, and she damaged our institutions, and we are still paying the cost for it.
Did you find it interesting then that the Congress decided to sort of pay tribute to Sanjay Gandhi over the weekend, to remember him? In its tweets and online, etc. I mean, that evoked quite a string of reactions. That of all the people to remember, they remembered him on his birth anniversary and were paying tribute to him.
Yes. It's bizarre and shocking. I mean, I'm not a Twitter archivist, so some young person will have to tell me if I'm right or wrong. But does the Congress, as a matter of habit, remember the birth anniversaries or the death anniversaries of Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, K. Kamaraj, Y.B. Chavan, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and so many stalwarts of the freedom movement? Govind Ballabh Pant, B.C. Roy, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, all these extraordinary figures who built that party. Without them, there would be no Rahul Gandhi. Without those names I mentioned, there would be no countrywide party to lead and to pretend to take forward the legacy of the freedom movement. Do they remember all those people ever on their birth or death anniversaries or even on their centenaries? So it is absurd and ridiculous, and it's a sign of how, truly how far the Congress of today is from the Congress even of the 1960s, let alone the Congress of the 1980s. So I think one could speculate why they did it. Is it an overture to Varun Gandhi, who apparently is unhappy in the BJP? Whatever else, don't they realize that young Indians can think for themselves? Young Indians have read books about the contributions of Kamala Devi and Tilak and Gokhale and Rajaji and Kamaraj. And with all this, they want to remember Sanjay Gandhi? What is going on in that cell, God only knows.
It did come as a bit of a surprise. Let me ask you, though, what you said earlier about, the Prime Minister today and his authoritarian instincts, as you put it. Is it fair when some people say that there are emergency-like conditions in India today? Pratap Bhanu Mehta wrote a piece last year, which he sort of retweeted today, where he's pretty much, said that there are things that are happening that he sees is an emergency 2.0. Do you think that's fair? Because there were excesses that happened in the 70s that you're not seeing happen today, or is it happening in a more sophisticated way today?
you know, Didi, historical parallels and analogies are always problematic. That's why I never use the word fascism. Because, you know, fascism is something that emanates from Germany and Italy in the 1920s and 30s. So it should not be transported to India today or to Turkey today or even to Russia today. Right. Now, so essentially there are some, shall we say, personality traits that our current Prime Minister and our past Prime Minister Indira Gandhi share. Centralizing power in themselves, equating themselves with the party, the government and the country. Not listening to criticism. You know, a certain arrogance and a hubris. Having as their close advisor a person, Amit Shah today, Sanjay Gandhi during the emergency, who has contempt for institutional practices, including towering leaders in their own party. So they are parallels. But at the same time, we moved on. In 40 years, young Indians are more democratic. They're more inclined to be rightly so, to be skeptical of their leaders. We have, when Indira Gandhi ran the emergency, the Congress are almost everywhere except Tamil Nadu. Now the BJP has opposition from state governments, from civil society, from intellectuals, from activists, from a small section of the media, but still that small section of the media is there, right, from social media. Now, obviously, the view from Delhi is different than the view from Bangalore. You know, or the view from Orissa or Shillong. I mean, we are a diverse country. So I hesitated drawing historical parallels, but there's certainly, in terms of political style, Indira Gandhi and Narendra Modi are similar. And similar in not in a positive way.
All right, Ram Guha, great to talk to you once again. Thank you for joining us tonight as we explore the legacy of the emergency and what kind of impact it's going to have in the run-up to next year's campaign. Thanks very much. And joining us on the panel this evening, we have Yogendra Yadav, the National President of Swaraj India, joining us. KC Tyagi, the Secretary General and spokesperson of the JDU, who was also jailed during the emergency when it was imposed in 1975. Sanjay Jha, spokesperson of the Congress. Ejaz Ilmi, member of the BJP. R. Jagannathan, editorial director of Swaraj magazine, also joining us tonight from Bangalore. Yogendra Yadav, to you first. What did you think of that comparison between Hitler and Indira Gandhi made by the BJP today? Ram Guha says it's an absurd comparison to make. You can't compare, you know, a man who gassed 6 million Jews to Indira Gandhi. What would you say to this attack by the BJP today?
I must say that I really welcome what Mr. Arun Jaitley has said today. Not so much about the Indira Gandhi-Hitler comparison. That's one of the sort of sidey things there. And people like Ramchandra Guha are much more competent to answer those historical questions than I am. So I would not let myself be bogged down by that. What I really like and welcome about Mr. Arun Jaitley is that Hitler is not a good figure. I had seriously started doubting it in the last few years. So when one of the leaders of the ruling party today says something bad is comparable to Hitler, I welcome it. Mr. Arun Jaitley says Indira Gandhi subdued the press. So I draw the conclusion that he must imagine that subduing the press is not a good idea. I indeed welcome it. He says retrospective changes in laws were made. I surmise that therefore he believes that retrospective changes in law of the kind that he has been making in the last 2 or 3 years are not a good idea. I really welcome what he says. He says Indira Gandhi had converted into a single party democracy. That I thought is exactly what BJP is trying to do in the last couple of years, 3 or 4 years. But if Mr. Arun Jaitley believes single party democracy is a bad idea, how can I disagree with him? I think I really welcome him. And most importantly, Mr. Arun Jaitley points out that neither Hitler nor Indira Gandhi abrogated the constitution. So he opens our eyes to the possibility that the fundamental character of a democracy can be stymied, can be distorted, can be destroyed without changing the constitution. I think that's a very salutary warning, and I can only welcome what he has said. I would take it very, very seriously. Mr. Jaitley has emerged fresh from a medical leave, and I think without getting bogged down in a day-to-day politics, he's come up with a very fresh perspective. I don't think Mr. Modi or Mr. Shah may be very pleased if they actually read what Mr. Jaitley has said. But I'm very pleased, I must say.
Well said in your inimitable style, Yogendra Yadav. Let me take my next question to KC Tyagi. Tyagi ji, आप जेल में थे. You were jailed during the emergency. आप मुझे बताइए कि जिस तरह से इस बार इमरजेंसी को लेके बीजेपी ने अपना अटैक, they've not stopped this attack against the Congress. इलेक्शन आ रहा है, ये तो होना ही था. आपको क्या लगता है कि पॉलिटिकली आज क्या लेसन है जो हम ले सकते हैं? इमरजेंसी जो 1975 में हुई, आज 2018-2019 में इसका लेसन क्या है, और क्या ये वाकई एक इलेक्शन इशू बन सकता है कांग्रेस के रिकॉर्ड का?
नहीं, मैं नहीं मानता हूं कि ये इलेक्शन इशू बन सकता है, लेकिन ये हिस्ट्री का एक ऐसा लेसन है जो हम सबको, सब पार्टी के नेताओं को सीखना चाहिए कि पार्टी के अंदर जब आंतरिक लोकतंत्र समाप्त होने लगता है, पार्टी का नेता जब पार्टी से बड़ा हो जाता है, जैसे 1974-75 में हो गया था, तब ऐसे कारण पैदा होते हैं. असल में ये भी गलत प्रचार है कि अराजकता फैल गई थी, जयप्रकाश जी के नेतृत्व में चेतावनी दी गई थी. ये सब बिल्कुल बोगस गलत है. मैं उस दिन खुद मंच पे मौजूद था. हमारे नेता साथी सतपाल मलिक जो इस समय गवर्नर हैं बिहार के, वो लोकदल के बड़े नेता थे, मैं भी उनके साथ था. जयप्रकाश जी ने उस दिन खाली इतना भर कहा था कि अब इस सरकार की कोई अथॉरिटी नहीं रही है. 12 जून को राजनारायण जी की याचिका पर फैसला आ चुका था, जिसमें मिसेस गांधी को अयोग्य घोषित किया गया था भ्रष्टाचार के तरीके अपनाने के आरोप में. और जयप्रकाश नारायण चौधरी, चरण सिंह, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी, मधुलिम में सारे नेता धरने पर बैठे थे कि अब इंदिरा गांधी को इस्तीफा देना चाहिए. कोर्ट से राहत लेकर के इंदिरा जी ने इस्तीफा देने से मना किया. और उस समय जो कांग्रेस के अध्यक्ष थे, उन्होंने कहा कि नहीं, इंदिरा गांधी व्यक्ति नहीं है, इंदिरा गांधी राष्ट्र है. इंडिया इज इंदिरा एंड इंदिरा इज इंडिया. तो जब राष्ट्र जो है व्यक्तियों के बराबर हो जाएं, तो ऐसा ही हिटलर के टाइम पे भी हुआ था. हिटलर का जो नंबर 2 था हायरार्की में, उसने भी एक कॉन्फ्रेंस में यही कह दिया था कि जैसे इंदिरा जी के बारे में कहा गया. लेकिन जो होलोकास्ट, जो लोगों का मैसेकर जर्मनी के हिटलर के द्वारा किया गया था, मैं ऐसा नहीं मानता कि आपातकाल में हुआ. लेकिन अदालतें मौन थी. अब जो जुडिशरी की इंडिपेंडेंस की बात कर रहे हैं, हमारे हैबेस कॉर्पस के पिटीशन तक नहीं सुने जाते थे. जजों ने मना कर दिया था कि नहीं भी हमारे बस के नहीं है. अटॉर्नी जनरल का बयान मेरे सामने है, जिसने कह दिया कि अगर किसी का कत्ल भी कर दिया जाएगा तो कोई सुनवाई नहीं होगी. आज प्रेस की आज़ादी की जो बात कर रहे हैं, मैं अपने उन पत्रकार मित्रों से भी कहना चाहता हूं, सारे अखबार पीआईबी को दिखा करके, सारे अखबार तब छपते थे. हम जेल में थे. 20 सूत्री का समर्थन अमुक आदमी ने किया, 5 सूत्री का समर्थन इसने किया. इसके अलावा समाचार पत्र में कोई खबर नहीं होती थी.
और इसीलिए त्यागी जी आप कह रहे हैं कि इसको हम नहीं भूल सकते हैं, and that is why you are saying that this is an important lesson that political parties have to be reminded of. आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं. Which is then brings me to my next question, Sanjay Jha, which is that why has the Congress in all these years not been able to unequivocally apologize for the emergency and say, yes, it was a blot in our history, this shouldn't have happened, it was wrong?
Nidhi, actually the one person who regretted the emergency decision, and I'm not commenting on the merits or demerits of why it was announced by the former Prime Minister Srimati Indira Gandhi, was Mrs. Gandhi herself in Yavatmal in 1978, and she said it in a public gathering. But I think the new political reality of our times, and that I think is the provocation for Arun Jaitley's blog, is a democratically elected dictatorship. What we very often call is an illiberal democracy. You mentioned in your conversation with Ramchandra Guha about the BJP being very sophisticated in very surreptitiously indoctrinating democracy in India. The truth is it's not sophisticated. I think it's stealthy. It's very decentralized, and it's imperceptible to the common man. Because you ask the common man on the street about freedom of expression, and he will say, well, I can say what I want. Nobody attacks me. But you look at your own fellow colleagues, Nidhi. Barkha Dutt is on record to say that She's had chilling threats given to her by the establishment. Gauri Lankesh is dead. She was murdered in cold blood. Ravish Kumar, again of your NDTV, has gone on record to say how he's being threatened. We have examples of Rana Ayub, who has to be defended by the foreign press. And I believe that if you look at the two institutions in a democracy that possibly manifest its health, it's the press and the judiciary. The press, I've given you some examples already. But look at the judiciary. I'm not
Sanjay,
doing any
Sanjay,
hollow
before I
rhetoric
come
here,
to
Nidhi, you know it. The
before I
Supreme
come to
Court
talk about the
Collegium does
BJP,
a press conference
I
and says
know.
India's
Let me
democracy
just
is in danger.
for a 1 second talk about 1975. And apart from Indira Gandhi's passing reference to, regretting what happened, I mean, the Congress honestly has sort of beaten around the bush when it comes to this question. Sonia Gandhi gave an interview to NDTV more than 10 years ago, where even she couldn't muster up, the courage to say that this was wrong, that this was just plain wrong, that there are no excuses for this. Why is it so hard to do that? Because this is something that keeps coming back to haunt the Congress.
Nidhi, I think you're forgetting, but you'll remember that we had actually in a very official document a couple of years ago, instead of this whole perception that we are robustly defending the excesses of the emergency, in fact we actually said we were critical that the circumstances may have been sensitive in the opinion of the government, but the reaction was definitely exaggerated and not democratic in spirit. We have never kind of condoned the excesses that happened. And I'll give you one example. I'm not going to justify that.
I'm going to interrupt
but just
you
think,
there.
Jayaprakash Narayan,
If you don't condone the excesses, Sanjay, 1 second. If you don't condone the excesses that happened, why did you guys pay this glowing tribute to Sanjay Gandhi over the weekend? There is nobody who represents the excesses of the emergency more than Sanjay Gandhi does.
Well, let me answer that, Nidhi, very briefly. I remember in school when in Patna for a year and a half when the JP movement of total revolution was at its peak. And I remember the fact, I think Mr. Tyagi has said to the contrary, that Mr. Jayaprakash Narayan, a highly respected, venerable figure, did tell that the police and the army should disobey orders. I want to ask you a question. Imagine if you or anybody else in this country were to say that right now in the Narendra Modi government, where you are called anti-national for even criticizing them on TV or on WhatsApp. Can you imagine the consequences? I don't believe at the end of the day
Are you giving us a justification for why she did it?
Was a very,
are you giving us some context?
No, I'm not. I started
doing.
at the very beginning by telling you. I'm not.
What about Sanjay Gandhi?
I'm just trying to tell you that the Congress party has never defended the emergency.
What about Sanjay Gandhi? Why is he still a hero?
Well, I can tell you that, I can tell you maybe that's a question that the BJP should answer, because Srimati Maneka Gandhi is part of the BJP. So maybe they should be able to answer that question much more lucidly than I can.
Yeah, well, it was the Congress's Twitter handle that was paying tributes to Sanjay Gandhi, not the BJP's. And about Maneka and Varun, that is an interesting question which I'll come to later, but you're obviously finding it uncomfortable to answer that. Mr. Jagannathan, let me come to you. You're going to just give me a second. How much of a relevant issue then politically is the emergency today? K.C. Tyagi says it's an important lesson for political parties to keep learning from, but he doesn't believe that it is a political issue. I have this question, which is that every time something goes wrong, the BJP keeps reminding the country that the Congress imposed emergency and seems to keep going back to that issue every time it is reminded about, let's say, how the economy is doing, demonetization, impact of a, badly planned GST, etc. So is this one issue that the BJP has, latched onto, perhaps not always justifiably?
Yeah, see, I think the BJP, Jaitley's reference to Hitler was more in the context not to compare Indira Gandhi literally with Hitler. I think she was nowhere near the kind of atrocities committed by Hitler. But the fact was, since the opposition tends to use the word Hitler in the context of this government's head, so he actually preempted that by saying that the real Hitler in the Indian context was Indira Gandhi. I think that was the only purpose of saying that. The second thing is, I think today nobody remembers the emergency for the simple reason today's voting base has changed. A lot of young people have come, they don't even remember anything. So the BJP in its tutu meme with the Congress may bring up the emergency, but it has absolutely zero impact on today's politics, for the simple reason that nobody remembers it. Even I think you need to call a K.C. Tyagi to say that, okay, I went to jail for that. Maybe if you call some old RSS cadres, they will say the same thing. But the point is, I think it has no relevance today. Today's issues are different, and today the country is far more democratic, and there is nobody can actually hijack the country and say, okay, I am going to run it like it's my personal property. It's not going to happen. No political party can ever do that.
All right, you're saying that no party can do that, and I'll come back to that point. But Ejaz, you're here, and you heard Sanjay Jha saying that today what we live in is an illiberal democracy. No party can obviously grab power or declare an emergency the way that she did in 1975. But what Sanjay Jha seems to suggest is that there is something more covert happening today, which is more dangerous.
I think individuals can be liberal or illiberal, but political parties or ruling parties, I mean, you take the oath of the Constitution, you are supposed to function within the confines of the Constitution. So to call an entire government as being illiberal, it would be stretching it a bit too far. There have been cases, he mentioned about Ravish and Rana and all that. I was in the debate that day, and I mean, please separate the trolls who even trolled Sushma Swaraj ji. Please separate them from people in governance who are actually working on the ground, trying to deliver governance, what they've been elected for, no mandate
But they have official blessings.
But there's no official blessing. I mean, so why would the party is extremely disturbed about Sushma Swaraj ji being downgraded and trolls taking it down?
You're the only one from the BJP who's actually spoken about it.
Well, it's a reality.
Today, the party spokespersons told us they're not going to talk about her being trolled.
Well, it's a reality that she's an eminent member of the cabinet and external affairs minister, and if people are trying to troll her for a visit abroad, and it's something that is not done, but please separate the trolls and the motor mouths from what governance is all about, which is democratically elected.
Why do ministers follow them then?
Well, obviously,
or even the PM follows some of them.
But he's not responsible for what they do. It's a reality. But Sanjay Jha spoke about is that, you know, please, we've got to understand, in 70 years from a nascent democracy, Indira ji could do what she did. Obviously, everybody has to condemn what had happened, because when you suspend fundamental rights and what happened Turkman Gate, the forced sterilization, these are very dark deeds that happened during those times. Obviously, a section of the bureaucracy went overboard, but please understand that this can't happen again. It's very important on that. You try and demonize individual leaders. The party which they belong to are bound to hit back in a similar fashion. Obviously, there's the analogy of Hitler in those days, and you can't compare the same thing now, but it's very true. But that the freedom of press was suspended, journalists were jailed. I remember, Sanjay, my house for the first time, the police came into our newspaper, Urdu newspaper, when my father actually had to throw them out, and then the senior Congress leaders had to intervene to say that, but yes, we carried black headlines every day for those 21 months that the emergency continued.
But you're saying this can't happen again?
It's impossible to happen. Can it happen now? Tell me. You're on TV. If you want to criticize the government, is there anybody stopping you? Tell me.
No, but I mean,
you can say your piece.
You can say your piece,
you can
but
criticize the
you
government.
know what's been happening with NDTV, right? So
well,
let me not spell that out for you.
The fact is, nobody can stop any individual for saying something. I mean, across the media, people want to support the government or criticize. They are free to do so. There's no threat, overt threat, or nobody's put a sword on anybody like the time the emergency did, and it happened.